The 21st of the 11th, 2024, and it is the race weekend of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But before then, there are very many F1 threads at which we need to pull. Lewis Hamilton has been talking, giving credence to the fact that he wanted to leave Mercedes as soon as the Brazilian Grand Prix. There are rules that have been broken. There is Eddie Jordan. He's come out and destroyed the FIA for their magic roundabout. That is their racing directorship. So too, we need to talk about Maximilian Verstappen. He's given an interview to Andrew Benson of the BBC, George Russell and the GPDA and all of the other drivers versus the FIA. And again, all around of the leaving even of Niels Wittich, the previous race director. Checo Perez has come out and talked about his dad. So too, Lando Norris has come out and talked about how he feels knowing that the Drivers' Championship, as at the 21st of the 11th 2024, is now further away out of his grasp than it ever has been season to date. Let's talk about Checo Perez first. He said of his dad that I don't agree necessarily with any of his comments. I think he made a mistake talking about Ralf Schumacher, homophobia PLC. Lest we forget, I don't share any of his views, but at the same time, I don't control what my father says. I can only control what I say. It's important as a sport to always show whatever happens on track always stays on track. No kidding, Sherlock. What's been going on with you there for Checo? Underperformance PLC, failing to get out of Q1 as near as makes no difference each and every single time. Logan Sargent has outqualified you on more occasions than you will care to remember. So how, Checo Perez, unless it's for that 20 to 30 million US dollars that you bring into that team per annum, how, Checo Perez, do you still have a seat, sir? Lando Norris has spoken about the championship, and again, this could be the title decider at Las Vegas. If, of course, Maximilian Verstappen finishes first, it's done. If he finishes second, Lando Norris will need to win. Otherwise, this is Maximilian Verstappen's championship. 3 soon to be 4-time champion. You've heard me use that phrase on more than one occasion now. Lando Norris said of that at the FIA drivers press conference as follows. He's not conceding it. A journo pitched at Lando whether it was check or checkmate. Lando said, it's check, I'm all alone, and Maximilian Verstappen has all of the pawns ready to attack me. I say again for the avoidance of doubt. No kidding, Sherlock. Lando Norris, this has been your lot all season. And again, you being a Mr. Glass half empty has not helped you. Sometimes these guys come up through the feeder formula and think that they are invincible, only to rub up against a Sir Lewis or a Max and learn that there is a different level that they cannot attain. These are the parameters within which Lando Norris and the other drivers on the grid now understand they have to operate. That Maximilian Verstappen and Sir Lewis Hamilton are operating on a different plane. Speaking of whom, Lewis has said that he doesn't feel... Lewis has said that he doesn't feel like he needs to prove anything to Toto, the boy who cried wolf, around his shelf life comments. He says verbatim... He says verbatim, I think it's just me here, standing tall. I feel strong. I've been training well. Honestly, I feel like I'm in the best place I've ever been in mentally. He continues, however, that he felt like he was so disappointed because of the car, the poor performance of it, the symbiosis of it and him as a driver, that he could have done with just leaving and going on holiday as soon as after the Brazilian after the Brazilian Grand Prix. Oh, the humanity. What do we make of that, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, that Lewis wanted to sack it off and come back in F1 2025 next season, was willing to throw in the towel? And they say that shelf life is a thing. Toto, the boy who cried wolf. Oh, and by the way, Eddie Jordan has gone full send on the FIA, as he should do. On the most recent iteration of the Formula for Success podcast, he said as follows: what happened to Carlos Sainz last year was an absolute aberration, a tragedy. They should have seen that. The race director should have known what was going on with the track, that the potholes weren't screwed on properly. That is a race director problem, says Eddie Jordan. If he were a racer, just as was Charlie Whiting, a gamekeeper, a poacher turned gamekeeper, he would have seen that. Again, levelling all of his criticism at the racing director for what happened this time last year at Las Vegas. How can you be fired and not fired, he says. Niels Wittich said that he was fired. FIA, in their statement, said that he wasn't fired, that he left by mutual consent, mutual agreement even. That this, Eddie Jordan says, as far as Formula One is concerned, is the age of spin. See, the race director, Eddie Jordan says, I'd like to see them sit an exam and pass it in order to become race director. That should be a barrier to entry indeed. All of the rules and regulations should be on the tip of their tongue. I don't want to hear about this orange book, says Eddie Jordan. It is absolute bull feathers. Bull feathers, he says. The FIA, the race director, they don't know what they're doing. Eddie Jordan's words are not mine. And well said, sir. He's absolutely nailed it. How do we know that? Well, because George Russell has come out head of the GPDA as far as the drivers are concerned and said of their IG post that none of them knew what was going on with Niels Wittich, that what they desperately want to do is continue to work with the FIA and the race director to improve the circumstance that they currently find themselves in. But the FIA are refusing the olive branch at each and every single juncture. George Russell said, quote, he was a little bit surprised that the FIA haven't responded to the GPDA letter, the post that they put out on Instagram. Why on Instagram? Well, because no one else is listening, George Russell said. He said there are a number of drivers who feel a bit fed up with the whole situation with the FIA, the magic roundabout that is the race director. It only seems to be going to a degree in the wrong direction. Charles Leclerc as well says that he was very surprised to hear about all this stuff by dint of the media, that there are things that we need to improve, and to do that we need to work together collaboratively. These are the words of Charles Leclerc and King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk. This new chap, Marquez, the ex-F2, F3 race director, takes his seat on the podium as the umpire of Formula One for the first time this weekend at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be nothing if not challenging. How can you argue in good faith that that's a good decision from the FIA? But at this stage, with Mohammed Ben Sulayem holding the reins of that organisation, notwithstanding regulatory capture, what else would you expect from that organisation? But, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, I digress.